So I just wanted to meet the guy who's going to a motel with my wife.
I assure you, this is purely professional.
Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage, Season 2, has taken a surprising creative shift that many viewers did not fully expect, moving far beyond the light-hearted blend of comedy, romantic banter, and family-centric sweetness that the inaugural season so tactfully maintained. While the series initially positioned itself as a heartwarming continuation of the young Sheldon universe, with Georgie embarking on a journey toward adulthood, responsibility, and emotional maturity, its second season has pulled back layers that reveal something far more complicated, uncomfortable, and sometimes downright frustrating about Georgie's character. The season does not simply portray him as a flawed person learning from real-life struggles, but appears determined to show a raw, unfiltered, and occasionally ugly side that the franchise has rarely dared to explore in such depth. This new tone has sparked conversation among fans and critics who are debating whether this bold character direction is beneficial storytelling or an unexpected rewriting of his identity that risks damaging a character people have rooted for since his earliest days on young Sheldon. From the start, Georgie's appeal across the franchise has been his sincere relatability. He was not the genius child prodigy like Sheldon, nor the socially gifted yet academically average teen like Missy. Instead, he was the older brother who made mistakes, faced consequences, and worked to improve his life in ways that everyday people could relate to. His relationship with Mandy felt like the perfect narrative evolution of that identity, leading to a story centered not on comedic dysfunction, but on growth, stability, and family legacy. Season 1 leaned heavily into that angle, portraying him as a young man eager to become a devoted partner and father, despite his limited maturity and complicated past decisions. However, as Season 2 unfolds, the writers seem intent on reminding audiences that while Georgie may have matured superficially, he is still carrying deeply rooted behavioral patterns, emotional impulsiveness, and identity insecurities that can lead him toward choices that are neither admirable nor sympathetic. Rather than being the well-meaning underdog who triumphs through effort and love, Georgie often appears impulsive, inconsiderate, and at times selfish, which has created a creative tension that some consider brilliant realism, while others interpret as character regression. The core of Georgie's ugly side this season does not hinge on one explosive or unforgivable act, but rather a series of subtle behaviors, overlooked habits, and underlying emotional traits that have resurfaced. The writing approach is not to villainize him outright. Instead, the show portrays how fragile self-improvement can be when life becomes overwhelming and personal insecurities are left unaddressed. Georgie's struggles with responsibility, emotional communication, financial fear, identity pride, and his constant need to prove he is not a failure appear to be the driving forces behind many of his poorly chosen reactions. Instead of speaking openly with Mandy, he often reacts impulsively, uses humor to deflect, or displays short-tempered frustration when confronted with emotional or practical challenges. These flaws do not necessarily make him a bad person, but Season 2 repeatedly magnifies them at moments when maturity is expected from him as a father and husband, causing friction and discomfort that cannot be ignored. One of the most noticeable aspects contributing to Georgie's negative portrayal this season is his difficulty balancing his role as a young husband with his ambition to succeed and maintain pride. He frequently appears overwhelmed by the expectations placed on him, yet unwilling to fully admit vulnerability. Rather than engaging in healthy communication, he shifts blame, retreats into sarcasm, or tries to bulldoze conversations with defensive reasoning. These behavioral patterns are reminiscent of his young Sheldon-era storyline, particularly the moments where he felt inferior compared to Sheldon's academic talent and their father George Sr.'s imperfect guidance. Season 2 cleverly uses these unresolved emotional wounds to construct storylines where Georgie's reactions become raw and unpleasant, illustrating the generational cycle of masculine insecurity and identity crises that Southern men in small-town narratives often confront. The writing suggests that emotional trauma does not magically fade with age, new responsibilities, or even parenthood, and that flaws unacknowledged gradually become toxic traits. This season has also highlighted how Georgie's sense of self-worth remains tied heavily to external validation, especially from career success and others perceiving him as capable. Even though he loves Mandy and their family, he carries an internalized fear that those around him secretly believe he is not enough. As a result, he often tries too hard to prove himself, even when no one is doubting him. This creates emotional distance between him and Mandy, who has shown significantly more personal growth and emotional intelligence, arguably making her appear more mature and grounded than Georgie. The result is a recurring emotional imbalance that places Mandy in a position where she must act as the stabilizing voice, mature problem solver, and emotional adult in nearly every conflict. In many ways, the writers seem to be intentionally contrasting Mandy's steady evolution with Georgie's inconsistent behavior, emphasizing how romantic partnership can become strained when self-development does not occur at the same pace for both individuals. Another controversial development involves the way Georgie sometimes allows pride and frustration to overshadow his sense of gratitude. Instead of acknowledging the stability that Mandy brings into his life, he occasionally reacts as though he is trapped, pressured, or unfairly burdened. While this may reflect authentic, real-world struggles for young husbands and fathers, viewers are conflicted about how frequently the show highlights these negative moments. Critics argue that the narrative is leaning too heavily into showcasing Georgie's insecurities rather than balancing them with redeemable moments of tenderness, accountability, and growth. Fans want to see complexity, not character assassination. The fear is that the show risks turning Georgie into a one-note, flawed husband stereotype, rather than a nuanced individual with both strengths and weaknesses. The pendulum of his portrayal may be swinging too far, making him harder to empathize with than viewers expected. The most impactful element of Georgie's characterization this season is not that he behaves badly,